What's up, everybody? Give me a 5x5 in the chat if you can hear me. I want to apologize to the people. Oh, okay. Odyssey dropped all the viewers for a minute. I thought maybe it was screwing up. But yeah, give me a 5x5. Can you guys hear me in the chat? Let's see what we got going. All right, I got a bunch of 5x5s on Rumble, and we're also on YouTube today. Now, the reason I made this stream public is basically from Thanksgiving until like 10 days into December or in January is like the absolute worst time of the year for dudes, especially if if you're bearing the wound that never heals. You got divorced and, you lost your kids or, some shit like that happened. And I mean, it's an absolute miserable goddamn time. I got it, and it just is what it is. And I'm opening it up to everyone out there, all the dudes out there who are basically stuck in the darkness. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe we can get some laughter going, and you can light your own fucking hope and navigate yourself the fuck out of there, because that's the way it works. Forgive me, I didn't turn off my phone. I will do push-ups after the show. Okay. Don't want to be disturbed. Now, tonight, I was going to, was it last week we talked about like hobbies and stuff like that. We're not doing that today. We're just doing Army stories today. Maybe we can get some of you guys to laugh out there. I have a lot of veterans who watch the show, and this will probably bring back a lot of fond memories. And it just is what it is. I've got Jack 23 saying I'm echoing. I'm sorry, man. Let me check to see if I'm playing anywhere else. Hang on. Sometimes it's playing on other because I have all the chats open, and sometimes you get some echoing. Sorry about that. Let's see what we got here. Wow, we're up to almost 200 on YouTube. We got 150 on Rumble. We got 10 on MGTOW and 6 on Odyssey, which is pretty good. All right, now, for anyone out there that doesn't know what this is, we do a supporter stream almost every Sunday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I usually get in here, talk about current events, give my opinions on shit, tell Army stories. I field questions from guys out there. It just is what it is, trying to help people out. And hopefully you guys find some value in this. And we're up to 554 lives saved now from suicide using logic, reason, and graveyard comedy. It just is what it is. Now, I've had a lot of people, in the past, criticize me like, you're not a real comedian. You don't do stand up. Well, you're right. I don't really do stand up. I mean, I'm probably going to get into it because it's a natural progression here, and I want to get in front of more people. There's many more people out there yet to save. And my comedy was forged, as an infantry grunt, when you're freezing and starving and all kinds of horse shit's happening. You have to do the retarded gymnastic dance of, 4 or 5 leaders above you not knowing what the hell's going on. And it gets pretty monotonous, and you have to laugh. You go crazy. Now, there's a lot of stand-up comedians out there who forge their skills at open mic nights where you show up and there's a 2-drink minimum, and half the people show up on wacky tobacco. I'm not taking anything away from those guys. That's hard as shit. But mine's a different tempo where, in this format, it's more like comedy lectures and what have you. And it just is what it is. Now, for anyone out there that doesn't know, I went in the Army in 1986, and I was basically medically retired in 2018. I wanted to stay for another 7 years, but the universe basically took care of me. The Army took care of me, and I landed in a pretty good place. I do suffer from pretty significant health effects from getting wounded in Iraq in 2004. And as I've been getting older, that stuff just gets, harder and harder to deal with. And it just is what it is. Anyone out there who got, an enemy marksmanship badge or got injured while in the service realizes, an injury you get at 19, by you can heal from it. You'll be okay by 22, but by 42, that injury is going to come back and haunt your ass, and that's just the way it goes. Nobody's here, permanently. You're all on basically your meat suit is on a lease. When that lease will end, nobody knows. So do the best you can with the time you got. All right, now let me go to the comments real quick. Let's see what's going on over here. Let's look over here on YouTube. Okay. Man, we're up to 250 guys already over there. Good. All right. We got some past lives saved, people chiming in with their numbers. If your number is on the board, just, put your number in the chat so I can keep track of that. Every now and again, I'll get guys from like the 60s, 70s, come into the emails or chats and let me know that they're still sucking air and checking in, which I am grateful for. Let's see what we got here. We got, all right. Man, there's a lot of people here. Normally we get about between 55 and 75 people on here, but I open it up to the public. So if I can't get to all your chats, I apologize. It just is what it is. All right, so let's get into it here. All right. When you go in the military, it's in the beginning, it's really bizarre because you basically surrender a bunch of your constitutional rights. You sign a blank check to the nation up to and including your life, and I would argue your immortal soul. You pretty much lose your privacy and what have you. And it's a crazy adjustment. So when I went to basic training, I was 17 years old, just got out of high school, and I was in love. I loved her, she loved me, she's different. Yeah, whatever. It just is what it is. Now, the thing that happens when you go to basic training is I made sure, and I've always been like this. I made sure I asked a bunch of people who had already been to basic training, been in the military, what to expect, what to prepare for. And they basically said, when you show up, you will have one small bag. In it will be a toothbrush, a razor, one towel, a pair of underwear, maybe a t-shirt, a pair of pants and a shirt, and maybe, $20 to $50 in spending money. That's it. So I packed up my bag and, I shipped off to basic, and we went through MEPS, which is where, they give you all your shots, and, they give you some more additional medical screening. You get issued all your shit, and then you stand in line and people yell at you and what have you. So when I show up to Sand Hill, because I was infantry, and I know there's guys out there who went to Harmony Church, got it. It is what it is. They had the World War II barracks. We had the fancy new starships, what they call them. And this was my first experience to inspections. And I'm gonna tell you some of the funniest goddamn stories I have are from just the fun shit that happened at these inspections. So we're all lined up. We get divvied up into our platoons, open ranks, and anyone who had anything more than the small bag, they got separated off to the right. And the drill sergeant came through, rifled through my bag, said, "Okay, zip it up," and basically we walked over to supply. We got like a little ticket for it, and we really didn't see that shit again. You know, we had to buy additional toiletries at the PX the next day. But all I had was 2 duffel bags worth of shit, and I was watching these poor idiots who showed up with all kinds of crazy bags and baggage. And the drill sergeants, that shark frenzy, they're just yelling at these guys. These guys don't know what the hell they're doing. I was watching checkered shorts getting thrown in there, foot powder, shit just going everywhere. It was utter pandemonium, and it was all I could do to keep a straight face. Because the minute you start smiling, they zero in on you and they start fucking, chewing your ass. And a couple guys were getting hammered for laughing, and they're holding their duffel bags over their head. Boom. And it's, Fort Benning, Georgia. It's 95 goddamn degrees, 90% humidity. And it was one hell of a suffer session. And now, I guess you could say this was like a impromptu inspection, which they tell you what to bring and what not to bring. But like some dude from like New York had a pistol. He showed up with like a 38 caliber revolver. And I remember like the drill sergeant, what do we got here? He holds it up and goes, all right, this is exhibit number 1, what not to bring to basic training. So then they bring out this amnesty barrel. And they're like, okay. So they basically stop everything. The head drill sergeant comes out and he's like, okay, all right, we're going to stop everything. If you guys have any goddamn weapons, brass knuckles, knives, guns, any other crazy ass shit, we're not going to be looking. Just throw in the amnesty barrel and it'll all be good. And I found out like a month later when I was on CQ runner duty that there was like 3 pistols, at least a couple dozen switchblade knives in that garbage can, 2 or 3 M80s. Like, what are you doing coming to basic training with some goddamn explosives? Oh my God. That's comedy goddamn gold, man. So, I mean, this whole fiasco went on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then we get hustled up to our sleeping area and we get assigned our bunks. And in Sand Hill, they didn't have bunk beds. You just had a rack, and then you had your wall locker, and that's it. And you got to make your bed, and of course, everyone's new. No one gets along. It is what it is. And I think I made my bed that day like 5 goddamn times. And I thought I was doing something wrong. And it took me a few weeks to realize that it's just a game. And the drill sergeant walked by, goes, there's a wrinkle in here, ripped the whole bed up, remake it. Hospital corners, and they give you like a little 3-minute block of instruction, and everyone crowds around, and half you can't see it. So you just got to figure it out. It's like learning by braille. You fuck it up, you got to do 20 or 30 push-ups. They rip your bed up, you make it again. That's just how it goes. And we, as a platoon, we didn't gel, man. We were always arguing and bickering. Nobody was in charge. It was utter pandemonium. And that went on for like 2 or 3 days. Now, later on, I talked to other drill sergeants later on in my career, and they said it usually takes 1 or 2 days for everyone to settle down. And if it goes more than that, then they have to take, some action. All right. Now, this is probably the most sadistic, legal horse shit I have ever encountered in my 33 years in the Army. But I swear to God, this really happened. So like day 3, we get back from lunch. We had a couple briefings in the morning, and the drill started to show up there, and they're just flipping over bunks and dumping wall lockers and just being, random, assholes. Okay. And they're like, okay, you guys just can't seem to work together as a team. So they're like, okay, this is what's going to happen. Everything on this floor is going to get carried down the goddamn stairs and set up exactly as it is right now. They like threw down like a tape measurer, and they weren't joking. We had to disassemble all our bunks, carry all of our fucking wall lockers down there, set them up in the quad exactly how they were on the second floor, including the fan. There was four fans. Bring the fans down, and like the drill sergeants would come out, and they'd take the tape, the measuring tape, like, yeah, no, it's supposed to be 8 feet. This is 8.5 feet. Shh, everything back upstairs. So we have to take it apart, carry it all back upstairs, put it where it's supposed to be, make our bunks, get everything dress, everything in the wall locker. They'd come up and go, okay, all right, do it again. And this went on from like 3 o'clock in the afternoon till roughly just after midnight. And we moved that shit up and down those stairs probably 4, maybe 5 times. I don't remember. Everyone is just smoked. You're covered in sweat, and we got it down pat. Like by the final time we, had to do that, when the first time we had to move everything downstairs, it took us like 2 hours. The second time was like an hour and a half, and it got less and less. The last time, I think the 5th time we did it like in 25 goddamn minutes. And they come out, and I don't really think that they were really measuring accurately. They were just fucking with us to get us to work together as a team. And when we were able to move everything, every stick of fucking furniture up in the second floor down into the quad in 20 minutes, or 25 minutes, they're like, okay, well, maybe these guys will work as a team now. And they're like, all right, take it upstairs. I didn't get to bed like 1:30 in the goddamn morning. And then they wake you up at, 5:45 for first call. And the day begins. That was, I've never seen no shit like that. And I got to say, that shit was really effective, man. Wow. All right, hang on. Let's check some chats, man. Oh. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Didn't mind basic. All right. So if you, Green Beret, World War II barracks, like Harmony Church was World War II barracks, and Sandhill had the starships. I think I was in like the first one. Let's see what we got here. All right, cool. All right, let's check. I got to check the YouTube comments. All right. All right. So if there's anyone out there who thinks I kept the gun out of your mouth with my material, please send us your story to redarkless12gmail.com. We'll read your story into the record, usually on a Thursday or Tuesday night live stream, and because we're keeping track here. I'm trying to keep you guys here on this earth as long as possible, and without any early voluntary exits. All right, next one. All right, we did the disassembly, reassembly story. All right, so when you go into the Army, I was like 11 Bravo, which is infantry. They don't really tell you, it's not really 11 Bravo, it's 11 Janitor. And I think we stripped and mopped and then re-waxed and buffed that floor like every other day. You could eat off that fucking floor. It just glistened. And, they gave us like a quick block of instruction on how to use the buffer, which it's not rocket science. It is what it is. And so, what are a bunch of, who was going to do that, when they're unsupervised? Because the drill sergeant isn't up on the floor the entire time. You know, Usually during the day, they're downstairs in the main office and they come up every now and again to check on you if you're doing barracks time. And this is, I think this is on a Sunday, and I didn't go to church. I didn't realize that, you got like free shit at church, I guess. You get the zombie flesh and vampire blood, and then there's a vending machine there that you can visit. I could visit my first girlfriend, Little Debbie, and which I love dearly. Still love her to this day, but she's not good for me. She's poison, so it is what it is. So we discovered this thing called the buffer rodeo. What that is, you get like some of the, not the super heavy guys, but like a medium weight, lightweight kind of guy, which I fell in that category because I was on the smaller side when we started basic. I was like 136, 138 pounds. And you'd have one guy, they'd plug in the buffer, and one guy would stand up on the bunk and hold the extension cord for the buffer so it wouldn't get all tangled up. And then you would sit on the buffer and hit the thing, and then you'd just start spinning around, and they keep the shit going. And and then we'd set the timer to see who could ride the buffer the longest. And this one dude, I mean, I did it a couple times, and I think my max time was like 42, 45 seconds. And it's not my thing. It is what it is. But this one Sunday, we're fucking around, and we're doing the buffer rodeo game. And this guy, he was like somewhere between 3 and 4 minutes, and he's cooking, man. And like they're trying their best to keep the cord from getting all tangled up. And this dude reaches down to pick up his Pepsi, and the handle of the buffer hits him like in the forehead and puts this like 2-inch fucking gash in his forehead. And he's like bleeding. He's like, oh, and we're all like, oh, shit. They're going to think we're up here fighting because he was bleeding like a stuck pig. Now, head wounds bleed an unbelievable amount. And this isn't like a little tiny little gash. It's like almost 2 inches long. It was clean. It wasn't lacerated or anything. So we're all like, okay, what are we going to tell the drill sergeants? We all got to be on the same page here. So we're like, okay. So we're mopping the floor, and he slipped and fell and hit his head on a bunk. So we're like, okay, that's the story. So he goes down there with he's got a bunch of bloody, paper towel and shit, goes down there, and you can hear the drill sergeant is like, what the fuck? Oh, God damn it. Because they got to drive him to the hospital on post. I don't remember the name of the hospital. And there's a bunch of paperwork and a bunch of questions. And the drill sergeants, like a half an hour later, they come up, and you're fucked because they're just doing this. What's the story? And we're all like, oh yeah, I slipped and fell. All right, everybody downstairs in the PT pit. And they PT'd us for like 2 fucking hours. 2 hours. There's red ants out there. Everyone's all covered in sawdust, getting bit by ants, stung by bees. And they're trying to see because they're like, we're going to stop when you tell us the truth. Who the fuck was fighting? We're going to stop this. And luckily, as you know, a platoon, nobody rolled on anyone, and they finally stopped, and we formed back up and went back into the barracks. But you know, it was very common. Every goddamn morning, the drill sergeant come in. Floor looks like shit. I'm gonna fucking restrip it, rebuff it tonight. Like, okay, like literally, it's shining. It's like a mirror finish. Again, you just got. It took a while to real. It took me like 6 weeks to realize, like, these guys are just fucking with us. This floor is fine. You know, they're just being dicks. I get it now. I get it. And once you realize it's a game, it's really not that big of a deal. And here's the secret, gentlemen. Everything in life is a fucking game. You just got to learn how to play it. Okay, you learn the rules. You learn how to cheat a little bit and surf the fucking edges of what you're allowed and not allowed to do, and you can win. It's just that simple. All right, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. All right, so we're gonna jump over basic training here, and I'm gonna go into like my first infantry assignment, which was the excuse me, I got a chest cold. 9th Infantry Division. So I show up, and first thing they do is I'm like in front of the company area. They're like, all right, put your bags down because you land at Seattle SeaTac, and there's like this 15 seat van you get in, and they drive you to Fort Lewis. You know, and I was in 347 Infantry, Bravo Company. And they drop you off. They don't drop you off in front of the company, but, you know, they drop you off at the bus stop, and then you walk like 500 meters, you know. So I walk up. They see me coming, and like, all right, who are you? And I, you know, back then you had like this half of, you know, inch thick stack of orders. And you got to, they're stapled together. You rip them off, and you give them to your whoever. I need to see your orders. Like, yeah, there you go. There's no email back then. Everything's analog. And they're like, okay, dump your shit here. You know, just set your bags here. Go in there, meet the first sergeant. I go in there, and he's like, you fucking piece of shit. I can't believe we got another green fucker here. God damn it. Blah, what's the army? Going down the list, you know, berating you. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Here we go. This is going to suck. And this first sergeant, his name was Freddie G. Marshall. He's probably dead now. He smoked like a chimney. Black guy. He was about 5'7"ish. Turned out to be a great first sergeant. All right. It just, he was just one of those guys that put up the persona of the grumpy bastard. And I did the same thing when I became an NCO because it's kind of a defense mechanism. I get assigned, you know, my platoon and squad and what have you. And they give me my room assignment. And I walk out, and all of my shit has been dumped out on the ground. And my team leader is going through all of my shit. Now, I showed up with some crazy wazoo shit because, you know, I didn't go directly there from basic training. I went back to, you know, home, and then from there I went to my first assignment. I had like a bulletproof vest and, you know, a bunch of knives, all kinds of crazy ass shit that I thought I might need. And they were all laughing their ass off. And as soon as I showed up there, I literally told my team leader, I'm not going to be here long. I'm going to this, you know, 2nd Ranger Battalion. This is a big mistake. And he's like, oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, okay. It's a big mistake. Yeah. Pack your shit up and take it up in your room. You know, they give you your keys, you know, and it took me like a half an hour to repack all my stuff up. And by the time, you know, they dumped all my shit out, like half the companies out there like watching me repack all my stuff. So everyone knew like my business. Okay, you're living in the barracks. That's just the way it goes. Now in this particular quad setup, you get like a 3-man room, and there's inside the room there's basically an alcove for each soldier, and there's like a small bathroom. And if it gets really crazy, they can put bunk beds up so you can have 6 people per room, which I never saw that. So I go in there, unload all my shit, get it all set up, and my team leader walks in and is like, "Oh, y'all unpacked there, Pop? Yeah, uh-huh." And what's the first thing he does? Dump my entire wall locker on the floor. Now here's the secret: you can't get mad, okay? And this is like Stoicism 101, because they're trying to get a rise out of you. It's part of the game. So like literally, they dump my shit, and I'm just like, I'm at at modified parade rash, and I just have that fucking look at my face, like I keep my cool. Like they dump my shit, like fucking do it. I'm like, okay, here we go. Yeah, and it took me another half hour to get everything set back up, and finally they quit fucking with me. I had 2 roommates at the time, and for whatever reason, I don't know why. Maybe it's because the unit sucked, but within a week and a half, both of those dudes were AWOL. And I had the room to myself for like 6 months, which was golden. But, you're living in the room by yourself, every now and again, in the morning, you'd have your team leader like kick your door open because he has the key. He can open all of his soldiers' rooms and wake you up like, what the fuck's going on in here? Like, and you get up, you get dressed, you do your PT. It is what it is. Now, you do this thing called an equipment layout inspection every now and again. Now, typically they would make us do this before we would go to the field, which we did 4 times a year, which is every 90 days or so. And it caused just all kinds of turmoil and stress because you'd have to sit there and they'd want you to like clean all your gear and like get black paint and paint all of the stuff that's supposed to be black, and lay it all dress right dress, and it's like a whole day affair. This is some stupid bullshit. So what did I do? Well, instead of like since I didn't have a car in the beginning, I would take my money and I'd go down to the PX and I just bought new shit. So I had a unused rucksack, unused LBE with the canteens, the ammo pouches, unused E-tool. And listen, that's a huge investment when you're a buck private, okay? But I just realized the frustration level and the money to spend to avoid said frustration level, worth it. So, you have to lay all your shit out on the floor and then on your bunk. Then you got to stand there and you got to wait for them to yell at ease on the floor, and you got to stand by your bunk and they come look at your shit. And my team leader comes in and he looks at my stuff and he's like, "Hey, Pop, man, is this the shit you take to the field?" I'm like, "Nope." He's like, "What do you mean, nope?" So he looks at my wall locker for my field fucking gear, and he's like, "All right, you son of a bitch, pack up all the new shit and fucking clean the old shit," which was completely useless. He was just doing it to punish me. But I mean, that was my SOP for equipment layouts for the rest of my time, as a lower enlisted. All right, now the next one. For whatever reason, in the room when the bunk or my bunk was at, there's a window. You can go out the window, and there's a ledge that's 1.5 feet wide that goes around, the inside of this. It's like an open area skylight kind of thing. And most of the guys on, my level, which I was on the second floor, they would leave their windows unlocked. So, you know, I would just open my window, go on the ledge, open the next guy's window, go in his room, turn on the TV. And once it got cool with everyone, they didn't care. Like if you drank their beer, you just replace it. Well, I was under 21, and but back then, if you had a military ID, you can buy beer at the Class 6. Nobody really, pitched a bitch about it. So we got along pretty good. But we were doing this Class A inspection, and they were killing two birds with one stone. So it was a Class A inspection, which is your burial suit, which we call it, with all your bells and whistles. Which, if you're a private, you got like one, maybe two ribbons, and maybe your marksmanship badge and shit like that. And I wasn't airborne at the time, so you had those basically bus driver shoes that you had to spit shine. And the team leader I had wouldn't let you buy the core Fran stuff, which you just take it out of the box and it's, mirror shined and you don't have to do anything. You had to like get the old shit and then spit shine it, and he was just doing it to fuck with us, I guess. But I remember they come into the room, and I'm the only one in there, so it didn't take them that long. They checked my uniform. Of course, there's always a gig. There's a thread that's sticking out, or something's a little crooked. You're never going to be perfect. It's just the way it is. The room passed because I was the only one living in there at the time. So they leave my room, and I hear them, going to some other ones. And I look out the window, and I see this laundry bag hanging out of the window for the guy, across the way. And I know there's beer in it. So I take off my Class A's, top, and I could see him standing at parade rest, and I open the window. He's watching me do this. And I scoot around on the ledge. I remember I grab his beer and I unhook it from the window. And he's out there. He's at parade rest. There's nothing he can do. He's like, and he was one of those guys that liked to lift weights. He was just this big muscle bound dude. And the way it was back then, you were allowed to have only 6 beers in your room. Period. So everyone had like this little tiny little refrigerator and what have you. And he had a whole like laundry bag full of beer. He was going to go down hard if they caught him. And it was literally hanging out the window. So I did him a favor. So I get back into my room and I'm looking at him right in the eyes. And I reach in there and I start drinking the beer. He was so fucking pissed. You could just see the veins come out of his neck. His face is getting all red. He's like, oh. And as soon as they got done, he literally like leaves his room. He has to like run around the building to come to my door, come up the stairs to the second floor, come in, he's pounding on my door, and I open it, and he's like, God damn it, you fucking stole my beer. And I'm like, dude, I didn't steal your beer. I borrowed it. You saw me borrowing it. Just wait around 30 minutes. I'll give it right back to you. And he's like, that's bullshit. You owe me 2 beers. I'm like, oh, yeah. Here you go. And I'm doing you a favor. I give him his beer back. And yeah, I did pay him back his 2 beers. But that guy, after that, we were like that. I could do no wrong in his eyes. He was like, yeah, Pop's cool, man. Yeah, he's okay. But that's the kind of crazy shit that we do to each other because it's so fucking stupid. I mean, come on. It's like you put on a suit to stand there while an officer comes in and looks at you. Then your first line leader, which is your team leader, inspects your shit. And the squad leader shows up. He's your second line leader. And then your platoon sergeant. And then the first sergeant might show up. It doesn't really come all the time. But it is what it is. Now, I thought that one was pretty good. All right. Now, this next one here, stolen beer. All right. So I had to, I don't know why this happened to me. Maybe because, I was fairly intelligent and not a fucking idiot. And, I followed instructions. I didn't have to have somebody check on me over and over again to make sure shit was getting done. Typically, you say, Pop, do this. I did it. That was it. No problems. So I get voluntold that I'm going to be a deuce and a half driver. And I don't want to be a deuce and a half driver because those sons of bitches are fucking busy all the time. Because there's a shortage of these fucking drivers. They're like, hey, Pop, can you drive a stick? No, I cannot. Well, you're going to learn. Okay. They send me to like driver school. It's on McCord Air Force Base at the time. They give you like a day of on classroom instruction. There's a couple tests on, following road signs. It's like drivers. It's the same shit you did when you got your driving permit, driver's license. I get that done, and then we, practice a couple times on the stick shift, how to, move it first, second, reverse, what third, fourth, whatever. And the first chance I get when we're doing the driving test is I pop the clutch and put the deuce and a half in the ditch. And they're like, you're an idiot. Get the hell out of here. And I'm like, great. I didn't want to drive anyway. So they send me back to my unit. I jump on the bus. I show up at the unit. My first sergeant's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I failed. He goes, that's bullshit. He gets on the phone, calls the guy, gets me put back into the class, hangs up, and then goes, you don't fucking play games, Pop. I saw your ASVAB scores. You're fucking a genius. Quit fucking with me. You're going to pass this school or I'm going to break you. So I'm like, get back on the bus, go back over to McCord. 2 days later, vada voom, vada ving. I can drive a deuce and a half. I can drive the Humvee. I can drive the 5-ton, which I really didn't have to do that much. I didn't really like driving the 5-ton because, the turns are get a little crazy, and I didn't trust myself not to kill somebody or fuck somebody's vehicles up. But the deuce and a half is a pretty good vehicle. So, a part of your duties as a driver, I'm assigned a deuce and a half. That's my primary vehicle. Is I have to go up there every now and again. I got to do a PMCS, which is basically a primary check and services on the vehicle. And if there's anything fucked up on it, I got to annotate the shortcomings and what have you. And it goes up the chain and they order parts or they have people come and unfuck the whole thing. I didn't know that this thing about level 1 maintenance, that's not my thing. I'm not taking tires off that shit. I told them I'm like not doing it. Yeah, I'll drive the thing. You make me drive it. I'm not doing level 1 maintenance. I'm an infantry guy. Get a grease monkey out here to do it. So we just got back from Yakima, and we did like 25, 24, 26 days in Yakima. And of course, you're driving the vehicle around. You come back onto Fort Lewis. You got to go to the wash racks, and you got to play the fun and games. You got to wash the vehicle, and of course, it's never clean the first time through. And I didn't know this at the time. It took me a couple times to learn this, that it doesn't matter what you do. You can clean it, you can clean that thing cleaner than a whistle in the beginning, and they're still going to find gigs, and you're going to go back 2 and 3 times until the end of the day, and then everyone's fine and go back to your motor pool. All right, now everyone who's ever been in the military knows there's no really stealing, there's just reappropriation. So I was kind of smart about it. On the outside of the deuce and a half, you had 5-gallon fuel cans. I took those off and I kept them in the cab. But some of the other guys in my company didn't do that. So we're going through the wash racks and we've got, 3 different companies of guys washing their vehicles. Then you have our sister battalion, 247, doing the same thing. Well, guess what? Somebody walked off with two fuel cans of one of the guys, you know, in my company, and you know, you're gonna get fucked. If you're missing fuel cans, where'd they go? And you can get a statement of charges for that. And when you're getting paid like $500 to $650 a month, that's a lot of fucking money. So the next day, we're supposed to have an inspection, and the company commander's going out there, and all the drivers and assistant drivers, we came up with this scheme. All right, so they're going to come down and inspect the vehicles. So we put the vehicle that was missing the 2 fuel cans at the end of the line. So they come by and they inspect the first vehicle. They go through, and there's always gigs, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. They go to the next vehicle. Well, those 2 fuel cans indiscreetly are removed from the vehicle, quietly run down the line, and put on the last vehicle because you don't want to get a statement of charges. So they come through and they're inspecting the vehicles, and I'm just standing there watching the whole thing unfold. I did my part. When people were moving between vehicles, I'd ask questions. Hey, sir, so their attention would focus on me, and they'd be putting up the fuel cans and whatever. And they come and inspect. And I'm literally watching the commander and the first sergeant and 2 of the platoon leaders walking back. And my platoon leader, crosses the one vehicle where the 2 fuel cans were missing that were there in the beginning. And he looks and goes, I know he saw it, but he doesn't say anything because he knows that we're doing a flim-flam scam, and we didn't have time to get new fuel cans from the supply depot, which is all around us, and he doesn't want to attract negative attention. So later on, platoon sergeant comes up and he's like, "Hey, Pop, what's going on with the fuel cans?" And I'm like, "Somebody stole them from the wash racks." He goes, "What are you going to do about it?" I'm going to go find me some fuel cans. He goes, "Right answer." Now, there was a DMRO yard on McCord back then, and it was huge. And they had all kinds of stuff back there. And this wouldn't be the first time I was with some ransack parties who went over the fence or through some of the openings in the fence to liberate equipment from there to be used or traded somewhere else. So that night, now we're infantry guys, so this is not a big deal for us. We jump in, my buddy's, he had one of those station wagon Pintos. There's 4 of us. We roll out there. We have our watch caps on. We got the camo on. Come back. We got 8 fuel cans because we have to have some spares. They were stenciled with other units, which is not a big deal. I had a stencil kit and spray paint, took care of the whole damn thing. Next morning, all of our vehicles had the proper amount of fuel cans, and then we had additional fuel cans in the platoon area for trading later on down the road. All right, let's go to some of these comments here. All right, there's a way to help. Pop, is there a way to help with running for governor? I'm not running for governor, man. We got guys from Australia watching. All right. How many guys we got here? I got 240 on Rumble. Let's check YouTube here. Oh, we almost got 500 on YouTube. God damn, you guys are awesome. All right. Let me know in the chat if you guys like these Army stories, because I love telling them. Now, you got to understand something here about the Army stories. I've suffered probably 2 or 3 dozen concussions, either from airborne drops or fighting, and then I got blown up in Iraq. So, the stories come and go, and I have to actually, write them down so I remember them. But in a couple days, I won't remember the details until something reminds me. So you guys got to cut me some slack in that regard. I'm just an old infantry grunt, man. Let's check MGTOW. I edited Pop's live video called Military Meat Grinder. All right, Sogo. Excellent. Oh, and I just filmed another layer you guys are going to love. It's basically, I had some hate mail from a woman who said that the real world is not war and I'm full of shit. And I basically busted her bubble. It's kind of like challenge accepted. So I'm in front of the whiteboard. You guys will love it. Hopefully, you guys will be watching it down the line. Let's see what we got here. All right. Man, we're almost at 9 o'clock, and I have way more story. Look at all these. All right, so we got the 2.5 ton. Oh, here we go. This is a big one. All right, so I had acquired the reputation for being the pack rat, and I've maintained this skill even to this day. Where you're walking around, you see shit that's unsecure, you're like, hey, I might need that in the future, and it gets strategically moved into a area where you can use it to barter and trade with in the future. So we have a inspection coming down, and this is basically our platoon leader is rotating out, and we're getting a new guy. And I get called down to the PL's office. Platoon sergeant's in there, and they're like, "Hey, Pop, we're getting a new PL, and he's got to clear his hand receipt, and the buffer on your floor is missing." And I'm like, "Okay, I didn't sign for it." They're like, "No, no, no, no." The platoon sergeant's like, "Hey, sir, could you leave the room for a minute?" So, because the officer doesn't want to hear this shit, he knows it's coming. He leaves, shuts the door. And my platoon sergeant's like, "Pop, I know you know how to find shit. All right. We're going to have this change of command inventory in a couple days. We need a buffer." And I'm like, "Okay. What do you suggest?" He said, "I don't want to go into details." He just stomps his foot 3 times. "I need a buffer." Roger that, Sergeant. And that night, actually that night I went out and I did my recon after like 10, 11 o'clock at night. I walked around some of the other, billets in the area because there was other units around the chow hall and where my unit was at. There's all kinds of billets. I'm sure it's different now, and there's always somebody that has a broomstick in the door and, leaving the door open so you could get in their community area. And in that community area, there's a wall locker and cleaning supplies are in there. And usually next to that is a buffer or it's inside the cabinet. Okay. I've got the stencil kit. I got the spray paint. I look at one of the other buffers, find out where the serial numbers are, which most of them have a little plate that's on there with the serial number and it's riveted on. You just, a screwdriver and a hammer, boom, it comes right off, whatever. I got the serial number for the old buffer because I have a copy of the hand receipt. It's me and 2 other guys. It's probably about sometime between 12:30 and 1:30 in the morning. We sneak out, and I'd already recon this area. We go in there, grab the buffer. We're gone in 30 seconds. Totally, didn't even turn on the lights, nothing, no sound. Run across the fucking quad. It's like a 200-meter area. We're sprinting with this buffer. And we get there. Within 5 minutes, I had the buffer repainted. I had the serial number plate taken off. All right. We had somebody had one of those little, basically one of those engraver things. We engraved the the serial number for the buffer that's supposed to be there on the side. We take the plate off of the controls, open it because there's another serial number in there, and we take a lighter, we melt it off so it doesn't exist, put it back on there, we repaint it, totally different buffer. Put it all together, put it back next to the cleaning cabinet, mission accomplished. And I remember I'm standing there as the company commander comes up there with the PL and then the replacement PL, he was okay. He was, listen, in straight leg infantry, your lieutenants are shitbags for the most part. Just going to be honest. And they're like, okay, there's the buffer. Let's the serial number. And they're reading the serial number. And I'm looking at the outgoing PL. And he looks at me and he does this. Because he knows I just covered his shit. Back then, that's like a $400 item. And in 1987 money, that's a lot of goddamn money back then. The dude sergeant was like, we're good to go. I got to add a boy. And in front of my door, there was a 6-pack of beer that evening, mysteriously appeared. And, I was learning the ways of the NCO, which, to be honest, you can ask anyone that ever served with me. If I asked another NCO for help and he was, Johnny on the spot, he usually got a fifth of some type of whiskey or vodka, gin, what have you. That's how I repaid my debts. And it's an honorable way to go. All right, so that's the buffer story. Okay. So this one, all right. This is a McCord stockyard raid. Let's just call it what it is. All right. So like I said before, I had gone to the McCord stockyard, which is their DRMO, and then the stockyard next to it. So the stockyard is where the equipment goes, and then it gets distributed to the units. And then the DRMO is when the equipment's old, it comes back to the DRMO, and then it's either destroyed or sold to the public or given to other nations. I don't know what they fucking do with it. So we had a conference room in our company area, and the table was fucked. It was like there was a split going down there, and it was like almost 1.25 inches wide at one side, and it was like almost to the end, and the table was basically on the verge of getting fucking DX'd. And the CQ like comes and gets me and goes, "Hey, Pop, they want a table." And I'm like, what do you mean they want a table? They go, "That table's about to fucking burn in. They want a table." I'm like, what do I fucking look like? I'm a furniture store? What the fuck you want from me? They're like, nah, man. Nah. Get you guys together. We want a table. I'm like, okay. So this happened about 7 o'clock at night. Go back to the barracks, have a couple beers. I get about 8 guys together. Go out to the motor pool. I got the key to the motor pool, from the CQ because he had to check it from time to time. We spark up the deuce and a half. We're in uniform, of course. You can't roll around in a deuce and a half on Fort Lewis and McCord Air Force Base without your uniform. Now, back in the day, you could drive on unpaved roads and back, there's always back roads to get over to McCord. And you didn't have to go on the, main MSRs because there's MPs and shit. And, one lone vehicle at 1 a.m. rolling around, and, you might attract some attention. So we roll out there to the DRMO. Now, mind you, this is shit that's supposed to get DX'd. And we're looking through there. And now they have whole pallets of office supplies that are, getting rotated out. We're talking like, office chairs on wheels, desks, tables, furniture, everything's there. And some of that stuff is still in good condition. So again, we see a table. We're like, okay, and we find the opening in the fence because I don't know why they never fucking fix that thing, but it is because they had an 8-foot fence and somebody had cut it along one of the poles, and there was maybe 8 inches at the top, and literally you pull it open and you can like march a whole army through there. And me and these 8 guys basically lifted an entire conference table from the DRMO yard. It was amazing. I mean, I don't think they missed it because it was in the DRMO. They don't really, you know. Now the stockyard, you steal from the stockyard, then you might get in. You really get in super trouble. You steal from DRMO, you get Article 15, a couple road marches, they bust your nuts. Okay, no big deal. And we muscle this thing, move it through the fence, put the fence back how it's supposed to be because we know we're coming back there. I've done this 3 or 4 times already, and we get the conference table in the back of the deuce and a half, and all back roads all the way back, and I think we rolled back in there in front of the unit like somewhere between 2 and 3 in the morning. We come walking in with a new conference table. And we put it where the other one is, and they're like, "Well, you got to get rid of the old one." I'm like, "What the fuck? Now I got to get rid of shit too?" I'm like, "What the fuck is going on here?" They're like, "Hey, you got to get rid of the table." I'm like, "I would like to know these things in the beginning." So again, me and my buddies grab this broken table, muscle it back into the deuce and a half, go all the way back out to the DRMO, and put that conference table right back where the one that we lifted went. So I don't think they ever knew it. And we replaced one with another one. And the one we got out of the DRMO was in really good shape. I mean, it was heavy as fuck, but it was still in good shape. And I believe the company commander had some guys sand it and re-shellac it and stuff like that. And that's how that shit goes. And listen, anyone who's ever been in the military knows that this shit happens. Mm. The DRMO. Let's see what else we got from there. There was one time when I went in there, I got a bunch of these fancy office chairs that on wheels, and I traded those for stuff. The oak desk conference table that was a nut buster. I didn't get any sleep that night. I think I got back just in time to wake up where everyone woke up to get ready for PT. All right, let me check some of the comments here. All right. Let's see what we got here. Fucking Air Force. Oh, did I ever visit Jerry's adult bookstore on Pacific Highway? No, I did not. Get Article 15 for putting something into DRMO. Well, you're not supposed to be in there. They catch you in there, they're probably going to spank your PP. Oh, yeah. Dropping stuff at the DRMO usually it's a supply sergeant kind of situation. There's a bunch of paperwork. I was never a supply guy, but that's usually how that works. All right, let me check Rumble here. Did Pop shave his head? Yeah, I did. Let's see, 18 Bravo material reduced to truck driver. All right, now G-Ski. This was in the beginning. I was an 11 Bravo when I was a private, E1, E2, E3, and then a specialist. And then I went to the Ranger Regiment, and then from there I went to selection and then Special Forces. Let's see. People in hell want ice water. And guess what? If I was in the Army, they'd go, Pop, give those guys ice water. And I have to make it happen. If I was in the mafia, I'd be a good earner. Maybe. You go to prison doing that shit. I don't need that aggravation in my life. MGTOW Mando, DRMO is still a funny way to find stuff. Just don't try at Irwin. Listen, man, you can get anything done. See, I still have two of those officer oak chairs dating back to World War II. Hmm. Yep, you're correct. I'm not the only one. I mean, it's a gold mine if you know where to look. I had no idea 11 Bravo is. I was a quartermaster in the United States Navy when I left and a X-ray 4NO flight medic for the Air Force. Yeah, 11 Bravo is the guy who carries a rifle, shoots shit, carries stuff around. Basically, when you're not doing your job, you're an 11 janitor. You like clean stuff, mop floors, mow grass, paint rocks, stuff like that. It's quite monotonous. Blankets is asking how my mom. She's okay for the time being, but it's she's running down, man. It's gonna happen, and this is probably her last Christmas. So I went there last Saturday, and I set up a Christmas tree for her. It was heartbreaking, but it is what it is. I myself don't want to live to be that old where you're just useless. I think by the time I get to the point where I am not useful, I will pick a fight with the drug cartel and take the one-way walk on the Rainbow Bridge. All right. You guys are crazy bastards. You guys in the chat are hilarious. All right, let's see what we got here. So that's the stockyard raids or the DRMO raids. All right. Weapons turn in fun and games. All right. Again, this is one of those things that you don't really realize in the beginning. It's a fucking game. So you go to the range, you come back, and then you have to clean your weapons. Now sometimes you go to the field, you fire your weapon out there, you come back, and the next day you clean that weapon all goddamn day. And then, not only will you clean your weapon, but you also help, clean the saws, the M60s, the 50 cals if they're used, the Mark 19s, what have you. Now, I don't care who you are. You are not cleaning that weapon, and it is not going to get, you are not going to be able to turn that thing in on the first time. It's just not going to happen. And I learned this lesson quickly when I first got there. I cleaned my weapon. I went to turn it in. They kicked it back. I was all butthurt and upset. And, they kicked it back I think 3 or 4 other times. Was furious. And, one of the guys said, hey, man, just clean your weapon, chill. Towards the end of the day, the armor wants to go home. He's going to take the weapons if they're clean or not. I'm like, okay. And during this whole crazy fucking bullshit, I went up to, the door, and I handed my weapon, and he's on his feet, and I'm like, don't you have a chair or something to sit in? He's like, no, it fucking sucks. I'm on my feet all day long. And then the light goes on, and I'm like, well, do you think if you had a chair with wheels, it would be easier? It was fucking awesome, man. I wouldn't have to stand on my feet all day. I'm like, okay. To the DRMO we go. A couple days later, Right in front of the arms room is an office chair, one that you can raise and lower that has wheels on it. And I let the armorer know, like, hey, man, I got you the chair. So after that, I pretty much had all of my weapons first time go. So I had all kinds of spare time to go what soldiers do when they have spare time, which is fuck off. And I thought that was pretty cool. Again, that's pack rat skills came in handy for that one, but it didn't help for like crew serve stuff. So the trick for cleaning crew serve weapons, because they get insanely dirty, especially if you're firing like hundreds or thousands of blanks through them in a field exercise. You need to get your hands on carburetor cleaner and a slop sink with hot water, and you hot wash, you know, the machine gun and scrape off all the carbon. You can take it off with carburetor cleaner as well. And I got really good at doing that, and I could roll through an M60 machine gun and get it clean enough to be accepted back into the arms room in about 35 to 40 minutes. Now, typically, they got really pissed if they saw you hot washing a weapon because it would rust and corrode. I didn't care. Now, in our company area, we had a slop sink, and there was two slop sinks, and one of them was in the supply closet, and there was also a water heater. And to do a proper hot wash, you got to turn that water heater up to like I will burn your skin off hot. So we would do that and use the hot water to get that done. But man, that was some good ass shit. And listen, those skills when I went to the regiment paid dividends, man, dividends. So that's the arms room craziness. Okay. Oh, yeah. If you're living in the barracks and the sergeant major shows up on a Saturday, that's a bad day. Here's the story. All right, so I think I'm a private first class by this time, and this is we're just getting ready to go over to Sinai, Egypt. I had been in the unit now for 10 months ish. I went up the ranks pretty quick from E1 to E3. They waived time and grade and stuff like that for me because, again, I was dependable. I didn't need a lot of supervision. But we're in the barracks. Our doors are open. Everyone's drinking beer. TVs are on. People are, doing what people did back then. There really wasn't. I think Nintendo had just come out, and there was some Atari, but I don't think anybody in my floor had any of that shit. At least in Legland, you didn't have the money for it. And all of a sudden, I hear all this yelling, and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" I hear Eddie's, Eddie's. I'm like, "Oh, all right, the platoon sergeant's here." No, it is our sergeant major, and they called him Mung Ho. Backstory: our battalion commander and this guy served together in Vietnam, and he requested Mung Ho to be a sergeant major for his last command, and it was this sergeant major's last hurrah. So that's the backstory. Now, this guy was a hard bastard, and rumor has it he had like a metal plate in his skull and a bunch of plastic and silver wire and what have you, and walked around with a limp, and he was just he's got to be dead by now. He just got to be dead. And he was just going crazy. He's like whipping beers and yelling at everyone. Everyone's freaking the fuck out. And he like walked around our entire company for like an hour and a half, yelling at, just going crazy. And then one of our guys ran to the CQ and told the CQ the sergeant major's in the barracks going berserk. And our company commander called the battalion commander, and the battalion commander had to come to the unit to calm him the fuck down and walk his ass off. Because apparently he was having an episode. And it was pretty traumatic. And listen, man, you have not have your ass lit up properly until you've had Sergeant Major throwing beers at you. Because I'm standing there, and he like reaches in this cooler, and he just starts chucking these fucking beers against the wall, and they're exploding. And then all of these enlisted guys are like, what the fuck is happening right now? Whoa! I mean, he was coming unglued. It was now he didn't hit anybody, and nobody got hurt, but it was pretty close to call the MPs and take him to the rubber room. And the battalion commander is the one that came in and as soon as he saw the battalion commander, he calmed right fucking down, and everything got swept under the rug, which usually happens for shit like that. Now, there's a lot of guys in the 80s, like 87, 86-ish, all the way up until like the late 80s, early 90s, who did time in Vietnam. And those guys are just not right in the head, man. If anyone here is a Vietnam vet, listen, you got my sympathies, man. That was a fucking crazy ass conflict. You got stabbed in the back by a chain of command. You got your throat cut by the military, and then everyone spit on you and didn't give you any respect when you came home. And that tends to rub an individual the wrong way. I'm just saying. Yeah, that was old Mung Ho. All right, now the next one here. This we're having an inspection. It's a company level inspection. They're doing a room inspection, and I have by this time this took place, we came back from the MFO, Egypt, and we'd been back for like maybe 6 weeks, and you fall into the rhythm, and we had our first health and welfare, then we had a barracks inspection, and I found out my first sergeant had a phobia for snakes. Listen, man, I'm not the guy that you want to find out what your weaknesses are, because I'm gonna fuck with you. I don't care. So I put this huge rubber snake in the top drawer of my desk, and I had set it up so when you open it, it flopped out. So they come in, they do the inspection. My team leader comes through. He says everything's good to go. Squad leader comes in. Okay. Platoon sergeant walks in. And then the company commander, walks through. And the company commander, by the time 3 other NCOs have walked through the room and said it's okay, it is what it is. Company commander in and out. Then the first sergeant comes behind him. Now, I just put this trap in place on the off chance that the first sergeant would open the drawer, which I really wasn't expecting him to do. I don't know. The stars aligned. The wind was blowing in the right direction. I don't know. He just comes in, starts to open the fridge, open this one guy's wall locker over there, does this, starts pounding on people's, bunks to see if a bunch of dust flies off. Comes over to my area, opens the top drawer to the desk. The snake flops out. His glasses. The guy screamed like a bitch. Ah! Runs out of the room. Oh, I fucked up so bad. And the other 2 roommates, I did not tell them I was doing this, so it caught them totally by surprise. And they're like, what the fuck? So, like 2 or 3 minutes later, first sergeant comes back in, because my squad leader came in and it's like, it's just a rubber snake. He's just fucking with you. Didn't go well. He totally ripped out and dumped every drawer in my desk, dumped my wall locker, dumped out my fucking duffel bags, dumped everyone else's desks, dumped everyone's fucking footlocker, fucking screaming his fucking head off, and he fucking storms out. And I look over at my two roommates before they say anything. I look at them, I go, worth it. Oh man. I didn't get an Article 15. I had to do a 12-mile road march, which not a big deal. And I believe it was about a week after that when I went up to the pack and dropped the bomb about my 340 187s that they threw in the circular file when I was trying to transfer over the Ranger Regiment or 2nd Battalion across the airfield. But yeah, I pissed him off pretty good. He didn't really fuck with me after that, and he thought he didn't hate me. And later on, because I told my platoon sergeant, I'm like, hey man, I'm not the guy you tell your weaknesses to because I'm gonna fuck with you. I don't care what rank you are. And my platoon sergeant's like, dude, you are fucking crazy. Pop, you are fucking out of your goddamn mind. You need to go to the regiment, man. You will fit right in there. And I think I got promoted to E4 like shortly after that. And even though I freaked out the first sergeant and he screamed like a bitch, he still pencil whipped me to get me promoted to E4, which I appreciated. That's the same first sergeant who fell in the slit trench at Yakima. This is off topic of inspections, but this is before we went to the MFO. We're in Yakima. They bring out this big backhoe and it digs this like 15-foot trench, and it's pretty wide. And they have these 4x4s across, and then they put a bank of toilets on there so you do your business. There's no privacy, there's no walls. You got to take a shit, you just walk up there, and you have to like step across this 1-foot gap to get on the platform to use the toilets. And it's like it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I get out of my tent. I got to take a dump, and I'm walking up there, full moon. It's pretty cold, and I literally have my flashlight, and I take the big step across the platform, and I hear, "Hey!" I look down, and there's our first sergeant standing in the slit trench because he's short. He's only like 5'7" ish. Apparently, he fucked up, didn't step properly, and you can see where he like grabbed dirt and pulled it in. And he's standing like in 6 or 7 inches of human shit and piss. And he's like, get me out of here. Now, luckily, I had my white light on him, so he didn't know it was me. And I literally like, oh shit. I run up to the talk, and I'm like, hey, first sergeant fell in the shitter. Oh my God. Before you know it, the whole company's there just walking. What the fuck? And they watched him pull his ass out of the shitter. And man, dude, you want to talk about humiliation, bro? That was fucking hilarious. All right, sorry, that's off topic. Hang on. Okay, so all right, give me a couple minutes here. I gotta take a quick piss. All right, I'll be right back. Excuse me, gentlemen. Had to take a piss. Let me check some of these comments out real quick. Let me go over to YouTube. Pop, did you hear us? We heard you. Yep. Now, piss in a Gatorade bottle like I did in Iraq. Get out of here, man. It was knee deep in shit. Yep. I'm glad you guys appreciate the Army stories, man. The whole company knows you fell in the shitter. Correct. All right. Let's see. Let's check MGTOW TV. I'm a trucker. I pee in bottles all the time. Squirrel bladder. Come on, man. I did 90 minutes. Now, there's sometimes I got to get up and piss every 30 minutes. Come on now. Cut me some slack. All right. Yeah, snakes are pretty dangerous. They're blankets. All right. Let's see what we got here. We got 9:30. Let's talk about. All right. Let's talk about the Ranger Regiment. All right. So I heard all kinds of crazy shit by the time I showed up to the regiment. Now, apparently, the scuttlebutt is there was really an extreme amount of hazing going on at the at the battalions. Back then, and I heard basically they fucked up a bunch of guys. They took them up to the top of the building, tied their hands behind their back, pulled out their peckers, tied 550 cord around their sack and their nuts, and then tied it to like a cinder block. But there was enough cord that if they threw it off the building, that it would just hit the ground. But they didn't tell the guys that. They're like, you got a decision here. Either stay up here and get your dick ripped off or jump. They threw the brick, and the first guy jumped down and like broke his legs and shit. And that was like all over Fort Lewis at the time, and it was like a big hootie doo. And then there was another guy that got killed trying to parasail with a reserve parachute, and they got up to about 120 feet, and then it collapsed, and he fell to his death. So there was a whole bunch of turmoil going on. But that culture was still there. The whole smoke your bags and just smoke haze the shit out of you. Now back then, if you showed up at the Ranger Battalion as an E4, they called you a tabless bitch, and everyone hated your guts because you literally would jump in front of dozens, if not 100, lower guys without the time and grade for Ranger School automatically for rank, and they just hated it. It is what it is. So I come back from RIP, go to my old leg unit 347, box up my shit, load in my car. I had a Camaro at this time, and then drive over, to Bravo Company 275. I parked my car outside the compound because, I don't want my shit getting fucked with. And I had one duffel bag with a bunch of just useless bullshit that I didn't care if I lost it or not. Like, we're talking old fucked up comic books, some civilian clothes, just bullshit. I come walking in. They're like, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, again, you got that big thing of orders, rip it off. I'm like, go up to the fucking day room. And I'm like, all right, here we go. We're playing the game. back to the games. I go up there, and there's about 18 other guys up there, and they're in my RIP class. So I knew these guys. And, they start going through the spiel. We're doing all kinds of push-ups, flutter kicks, get up, get down, just it's a bunch of stupid shit. And they're like, you got to go back downstairs and fill out some fucking paperwork and get your linen. And I'm like, okay. So I leave my duffel bag, go downstairs to the supply, and they give you I think you got an additional 2 uniforms, your bed linen, uh, 550 cord and loom tape and stuff like that for all your gear. I go back up there, and all of our shit had been dumped all over the floor. I've played this game before. All right, so the duffel bag I took up there didn't even have my name on it. None of the shit that was in that duffel bag had any identifiable marks on it. So I just left it there. I'm like, not my shit. So some other motherfucker had to clean that up. I don't care. Somebody got a free duffel bag, whatever. They're not that expensive. So I get my room assignment, go in there, and my 2 roommates turned out to be pretty good dudes. Not in the beginning. They hated me in the beginning. That's just how it works out. And my 2 team leaders and squad leaders were away at West Point teaching sticks lanes. So I was the de facto squad leader. And everyone went berserk. There's no fucking way. You can't have terrible splash. Yeah, so it was it was a pretty standard occurrence for me to go up to my room and have my wall locker dumped. It happened every 3rd or 4th day for 6 weeks. Not a big deal. And I made it. I made up my bed. Had my wall locker all squared away. And if we were not in the beginning when I got there, they weren't in the field. So I think it was between deployments or something. We'd go down to final formation. I would go back upstairs, climb out the window, go to the drain pipe, climb down to the ground, walk to my car, get in it, and leave. And then I would come back at 5 in the morning. And the reason I did that is the hazing culture was fucking crazy. And my roommates were like, hey, the NCOs downstairs came up looking for you and you weren't here. They were fucking pissed. And I'm like, sucks to be them. And I kept that up for a while. And then we had to do an IG cleaning for an IG inspection. So, not allowed to leave the barracks. Got to stay there and clean till dark 30 in the morning. So right around midnight, my door kicks open, and there's 6 E5s that were living on the main floor. And they smoked the living dog shit out of me for about 2 hours. I had to take 3 water breaks because they're fucking dicks, man. It was out of control. But apparently, because I had evaded them for so long, the frustration level had come to a head, and they didn't put their hands on me. If somebody put their hands on me, I'd fuck them up. Because by the time I got there, I had already been doing. I've been studying martial arts since I was 11, 12 years old. But I started taking. There was a school called Robert Edwards School of Ishinru on the hilltop in Tacoma. He had a school there. And I used to go there when I was in Lakeland, a minimum of 3 times a week when I wasn't in the field or deployed. And I would just fight his guys. So I knew how to handle myself. So, and back then there was no hand-to-hand program. And that's why I studied the martial arts. And later on I went into actual compete as a fighter. because I wasn't going to be one of those guys like, I'm a Green Beret, but I can't fucking fight. Not a good combination. So none of them put their hands on me. So we didn't have to deal with that because I would have fucking tuned some people up. So they smoked the dog shit out of me. They dumped my wall locker. And by this time, it's just part of the game. Again, everything's a game. You know, I'm Mr. Stoic. I don't really get upset. Like, all right, okay. It is what it is. And this is the fucked up part here. Because after they smoked the dog shit out of me, there was like 5 other guys in my platoon that I went to rip with. And we had to strip the floor. Now, the way they stripped the floor back then is they would literally open up the scouring powder and walk down the hallway, right? And then they'd spill water on there. And then I think 4 or 5 of us were like literally like on the ground doing the worm, flipping over, doing the worm, moving up and down the fucking hallway, stripping the wax off of the fucking floor with their goddamn bodies. Like my BDUs were fucked up, man. That really aggravated me, but you know, it's the game. You know, we did that for like an hour, then we mopped it up and then waxed it and buffed it clean. By the time I got to bed, it was like 3:30 in the morning. We got up at 5:45. You know, when you're 21 years old, I would think I was 20 when I showed up at battalion, and I turned 21 I turned 21 while I was in the battalion. You know, you're indestructible. You can literally drink all night and get 1 hour of sleep and get up and run 5 miles in 40 minutes or less. No problem. And then come back to the chow hall and pack away, 3,000 calories at one sitting 3 times a day, which I miss because I miss being able to eat like that. And then at the end of the day, you get a Domino's pizza on top of it. I was probably rolling through, 7 to 11,000 calories a day back then. And I would love to eat like that again, but I broke my eater. It's just the way it is. So that's pretty much how it went in the beginning. They fucked with me pretty good. And I was still the acting squad leader while the 2 team leaders and the squad leader were gone. And they were gone for like 2 weeks. And I'd have to PT the other guys in my squad. Well, we had this other guy named Zertico who was just lividly pissed that I was there. Hated my guts, would get in my fucking face, never touch me, get in my face, talk all kinds of shit. And he's like, no, your squad's falling with my squad, and we're running around the airfield, which is about 5.25 miles. Now, back then, this guy Zertico, he was a running fool. I was not going to allow him the dignity of watching me quit. It's not going to happen. So we right face, we march out to, the airfield, right face, we start running. And we're running at, 5 miles, 40 minutes or less pace. It was faster than that, actually. Because I just got back from RIP. It was not a big deal. And he specifically wanted me to quit. And I was not going to give it to him. So by the time we finish the run, we get back in front of the 2nd Ranger Battalion. There's me, one other guy from my squad, and 2 guys from his squad that are left. We started off with like 13 dudes. So I know I frustrated the shit out of them. And like the E5s, they make or break the battalion. And they were trying to do everything in their power to get me to quit. And that's just not gonna fucking happen. And they would come up there and they would get these impromptu inspections. They dump my shit and fuck with they just fuck with me to no end. So finally, there's this one NCO on the floor, E5, and he was in the Fort Lewis boxing smoker the year prior. He'd boxed, I guess, if you want to call it that. Now, when you do a boxing smoker, you're already in super good shape because you're from the regiment, and all you do is you just hit the heavy bag for two minutes times 3. It's basically 6 minutes of uber sprint punching. Not a lot of tactics in there, not a lot of blocking, parrying, and there's the sweet science to it. Now, I've been doing martial arts now. I was 20 years old, probably 9 years, and then I did the open floor fighting in Tacoma. And they dragged me down there, and we're doing special PT, and they put the gloves on me and the headgear, and the sergeant's like, "I'm gonna fucking knock your head off." I'm like, "It's probably not gonna go how you think it's gonna go." I tooled that fucker up in about 2 minutes flat. I mean, he was like whining and he was bleeding out of his mouth and nose. And after that happened, it went from like 11 to like a 7. Like they no longer like would just rage at 11. They dialed it down to 7 because in their minds they're like, look, if we push this guy over the edge, he knows how to fight and he'll fuck us up. So a couple weeks later, my team leader and squad leader come back in. My squad leader just smokes the shit out of me, hated my guts, just made my life a fucking nightmare. And to this day, if I ever see that guy, I'm going to knock his fucking block off. Totally unprofessional. But I was a tabless bitch. Nobody wanted me around. They smoked the shit out of me. But it worked out in my favor. Because, when it came down, we got a tasking for snipers. We'll send Pop. So I'm like, cool. I got to go over to the headquarters and train with the snipers. That's how I became a bike driver. And send Pop. Because nobody else wanted to give their people up. Yeah, Pop will do it. So I learned, I did the bike driving. That's how I did the Jeep driving. That's how I did the scout swimmer. And they came up and they're like, well, Pop, you know how to swim? I'm like, yeah, I'm lifeguard certified. All right, you need to report to headquarters. We're doing some joint training operation with, I think there were some Navy SEALs involved, or maybe they're Marines. I think they're Navy SEALs. A lot of swimming was involved, not a big deal. I mean, it is what it is. I did a 2-week, preparation for this where you just go and you like a week in the pool and all you do is swim all day, and then you go to the Puget Sound and you fin and you wear the wetsuit and do all the shit out there, which was pretty eerie, but it worked out in my favor. It is. It is. I don't know, but I've been there maybe 4 or 5 months. We have another IG inspection, and our platoon sergeant was from England. He had this English accent. His name was Johnson. I don't know his first name. He wasn't there that long. Like shortly after this incident, I think he got PCS somewhere else. But I'm a joker. That's what I do. So I get my hands on some cardboard from the MRE boxes, and I start cutting out silhouettes of pistols. I had like 3 or 4 of them. I don't remember. And I just get up on the chair and I pull down the fluorescent light panel and I put them in there and I put it back up. So when you look up, it looks like there's pistols hidden in the light. Now, my other 2 roommates, they didn't know this was going down. Again, I have a habit of doing this. So they come in and they do the inspection. The platoon sergeant comes in. He's walking around, and I'm at parade rest, and I'm like looking at the ceiling, and he's like looking at me, and he looks up and goes, you can see the silhouettes of the cardboard pistols. So he's shitting a Tiffany cufflink because the company commander's right behind him, and the first sergeant's with them. And 10 minutes behind them was the Sergeant Major Leon Guerrera and Lieutenant Colonel Miastis, who was a piece of shit. So there's nothing he could do about it. So if they see that shit, everyone's going to come fucking unglued. Luckily, he's the only one that saw it. So everyone leaves. He comes back in the room, dumps our desks, dumps our wall lockers, dumps all our shit on the floor, kicking around, screaming and yelling, and storms out. And most of my roommates are like, "That's a good one there, Pop. Huh? You're a fucking dick." Again, I look at them both and go, "Worth it." Oh my God, I was such an asshole. But even if, you know, they did see it, they would know it's a practical joke. And I mean, I still had to do, like, I think I did 2 12-mile road marches over that shit. Worth it still. Mm. It is what it is. All right, this next story. Now, this is tied to an inspection, but this is some of the best fucking shit I had ever fucking seen. Kudos to this guy. I'm not going to use their names. This guy's fucking practical joke genius. So I had these two roommates. One of them was buff surfer guy from California. His father was pararescue Vietnam. The guy was, just a stud. I mean, PT stud, all buffed out and shit. The other one, we called him Bubble. He was Greek heritage. Had like this little like nodule of fat or whatever at the end of his nose. Bubble head, on the skinnier side. Not the sharpest tool in the shed. Nice guy though. I begrudge him nothing. But he had this picture right by his bed, and it was, it was about 10 inches wide, and it literally was. He had his great grandparents, his grandparents with all of his aunts and uncles, and then all of the grandkids and his mother and father, aunts and uncles, and on each end, there's the great grandfather and the great grandmother, and you look at it like that's a big Greek fucking family. So I come walking in the room, and the buff guy has got this box of porn magazines, and he's just fucking looking through them. And finally, he's like, "Oh, there!" He takes out these scissors and he cuts out this little picture of a dude, and it's the same size as everyone in the family. And it's this dude holding like this 12-inch dick. And he puts it on the side of the picture by the great grandmother with his hand over her shoulder. He shows it to me. I can't even keep a straight face. I have to leave the room for several hours. I was laughing so fucking hard. And you can't give the joke away. That's dick maneuver 101. You can't do it. And he didn't notice. The Greek kid didn't notice, because we thought he'd see it right away. And then we just kind of forgot about it. A week and a half later, battalion inspection. Now, we've forgotten about this. We don't know what's there, like, and, you got your PL comes in, the company commander, the first sergeant, they look at everything. And about 10 minutes behind them, Sergeant Major Leon Guerrero comes in, and this guy has a presence about him that's so thick you can literally carve it out of the air. And he comes in and he starts hitting my bed. Ah! There's dust flying up. And he's like, "What's up, what's up? Yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Oh, is this your family?" He picks it up, looks at this picture. And he just goes, sets it down, and then does an about face, walks out of the room. 2 minutes later, the battalion commander comes in. Doesn't ask anyone shit. Just walks up, picks up this picture, sets it down, and he has to run out of the room because he's laughing his fucking balls off. So, the inspection's done. The Greek kid picks it up, and he's just like, "Ah!" The whole company came up to look at that picture before we allowed him to take that fucking penis dude out. There were people historically. hysterically laughing on the ground. I mean, a couple guys probably pissed themselves. That's how funny it was, man. You just had to be there. Oh my God. That is probably the best inspection story I have in my whole arsenal, man. It just can't top that, man. That is unbelievably. And then, these two guys hated each other, okay, and they fought all the time. But there was some payback because the buff beach boy guy, whose father was pararescue. Well, on the desk, he had a knife that was his father's that he carried in Vietnam, and it was under this glass thing, and it was on a little stand, and there's like this little brass plaque, and he's leaving for Ranger School. All right, so he packs up his shit. He's got a stack of fucking orders. Everyone comes, wishes him good luck. And a couple guys, here's my Ranger handbook. It's got all the notes from Ranger School already. I just got done 6 months ago. You're going to be golden. And we literally, I watch from we're on the second or third floor. Second floor at the time. After Panama, I got moved up to weapons company because I became the sniper section leader. But we watch him drive away in the cab going to Seattle SeaTac. And the Greek kid pulls out this big jar of peanut butter. He's got some crackers. Takes the knife out from under glass, puts it in the peanut butter. And he's sitting there eating crackers. He ate half a jar of fucking peanut butter on Ritz. I think it was Ritz crackers. Puts the knife back without even wiping it off. Puts the thing back on top of it. And we just left it there. A month later, the Greek guy went to Ranger School. And, I was basically living in the room by myself until they came back. And I remember by the time the beach guy came back, there was this ball of mold growing on the knife of the peanut butter. Oh my God. He's like, he just came unglued. And, I was the referee, and he was like, I'm going to stomp that dude's balls out of his fucking a-hole. And I'm like, hold on a minute. You cut out the dude holding the 12-inch penis and put it into that black and white photo of his family that was seen by the sergeant major and the battalion commander. Come on now. One practical joke deserves another. Well, that's my father's knife. It's all pitted and fucked up. I'm like, hey. You can buff all that shit out. Go get it reblued. Not a big deal. All right? We're not going to be beating people's asses because, you can't take a practical joke, motherfucker. So, I calmed everything fucking down. But I think those guys still hate each other today, man. Oh, Lord. Let's bring back some good times, man. All right, let's see what we got going on here. I know some of those guys in the regiment have probably heard a lot of these stories before. I apologize. But it is what it is. I'm glad. Listen, man, if you guys think these stories are funny, let me know in the chat. All right, we do this all the time if you're part of the regiment or the supporters. So this is not like it doesn't happen on. This isn't like a one-off kind of thing. I tell Army stories all the time. Whenever I remember them, it is what it is. Stories that are gold are always gold. Yeah, I'm glad you guys like this. Listen, man, like there's a lot of guys out there who are hurting for certain, and the comedy, will help them out, man. That's why I do this. I don't make any money doing this, man. This is a thankless job. But I've I've been through the ringer. and I made it out the back end. And a good leader takes those lessons that he learned the hard way, and he helps the guys behind him so they don't have to feel that pain. They learn through his wisdom and his experience. Because guess what? It's over for me, man. My kids are grown. It is what it is. You know, I was robbed. I have the wound that never heals. Got it. But if I can help any of those guys out there watching this avoid that shit, then I'm square with the house. Truly, I am. All right, Flip to Bunny. Is Hornady Outfitter CX in 300 PRC any good? First of all, I have a 300 PRC. It's a Savage Tactical heavy barrel. And I'm still trying to hand load and tune the ammo for it. But that weapon system could easily shoot 1,500 meters, maybe 1,600 on a calm day. That's a mile. 30 caliber platform will shoot a mile. Easy. So the PRC is a good round. And it will, we tested it on an old level 4 plate at 150 yards. Shot right through that motherfucker with the 225 grain Hornady, the ballistic national match rounds. So yeah, it's a good thing. Let's check the YouTube here. Oh, Big Shello 07. Favorite story was the salmon in the car. Yeah, I had to do that. Basically, he was ETSing out of the service, and I went down to the fish market in Seattle, and I bought like this. I don't think it was a salmon. I don't remember. It was a big fish, about this big. And he is doing his last rounds to say goodbye. And he had a Mazda RX-7 that the hatch was open. And I remember I moved a bunch of his fucking clothes. And I put the fish in there, and I put the clothes back on it. And I didn't say shit. Because he and I were in this horrible practical joke war. Like, he glued my boots and my tennis shoes to the floor. And I basically had to pull up the floor tiles to get, to take care of it. And then I had to retile that area from the RNU closet. It was horrible. It's funny now, but it is what it is. All right, Plains Warrior. I'm glad you like it. Jeff Ramblin, my kids and grandkids love my Army stories. Talk about all the drone and UFO sightings. Well, they're going to have to come up with a way to stop all this drone shit. They're just going to have to figure it out. But if you look at history, whenever somebody develops a weapon, shortly behind that, there's always a defense to said weapon. So it will happen if it's not already out there. All right. Let me check Rumble here. I had a P320, sold it. I'm not a fan of the P320. I'm a fan of the P226. I have no idea why we didn't adopt that instead of the piece of shit Beretta 92F. All right. Let's see what we got here. Hang on a minute. I'm trying to figure this out. Moisture Patrol, 1,500 meters. God damn! I'm glad you like the stories there, Moisture Patrol. I'm cash strapped. I wish I could be in the regiment and do this every Sunday. I understand there, Mr. Green Beret. We use comedy to save lives. Yes, we do. Pop, can you guys imagine Pop doing stand up like in Lisa Cop and Donut Bit, but about these inspections, especially the dick one? Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys got a good laugh out of it tonight. I really am. That's why I decided to do this. Blankets, the peanut butter wasn't that bad, but when when you leave peanut butter out for 2 months, it tends to mold. Oh, I got to check out the news for the huge explosion in Syria. Fun and games are ensuing, gentlemen. All right, a Big Shell '07 Pops AR build. Well, if I was to build an AR, it would be a 308. It'd be an AR-10 because 223 is okay, but the 308 is better. Just my opinion, of course. All right. Well, it's 12:02, gentlemen. I'm going to be signing off here. So I will talk to you guys later. If you guys are going to cut this up and preserve the stories and turn them into shorts, go ahead. I don't care. It is what it is. But I'm glad I was able to help some guys out there. And next weekend, I think we're doing a movie, so it won't be open to the public. But after that, I'll probably do one more open to the public. I just got to figure out what I'm going to talk about. But other than that, I will talk to you guys later, and it's been fun. Please do not take permanent solutions to temporary problems. That's foolish, and you never know what tomorrow holds. And no matter what, if everything is all fucked up, live out of goddamn spite. You guys take it easy.